This is Entrepreneurs Unity Group here. I will break down the Chalkline, a Spanish psychological thriller. Watch out and enjoy. At the beginning of the film, Simon and Paula, a middle-aged couple, are seen cruising down a road with minimal lighting. The cops are conducting a random search and their vehicles can be seen just about wherever. The pair continues on their way, and not long after, they encounter an unknown person. Upon closer inspection, it is seen to be a young girl, perhaps the missing child the police are searching for. Strangely, she's strolling down the middle of the street. The couple exits their vehicle and calls out to the girl, but she does not answer. Simultaneously, a motorcyclist speeds quickly towards us from the opposite direction. The girl, however, does not flee but instead runs directly toward the threat. The motorcyclist loses control and crashes, knocking the girl unconscious along with him. As soon as Simon and Paula realize what has happened, they take the baby to the hospital and have her admitted. The police get involved as well because they want to see if the girl's description matches any of the missing kids. Unfortunately, we can't find anything solid. When the pair finally gets back to their apartment, Paula is spotted injecting herself with a needle in the bathroom. It's clear that this is classified information because she carefully conceals the syringe box behind the mirror in the restroom. Paula and Simon will continue to pay daily visits to the hospital where the unidentified youngster is being treated until the girl's parents can be located. The youngster wasn't knocked out in the collision, the doctor says. She was already ill. Because of the damage, her kidneys are barely functional at best. The girl hasn't spoken a word since she got here, but she had a very strong reaction when the nurse's name was called, Clara. Consequently, the medical staff has determined that her given name is also Clara. Despite her physical improvement thanks to hospital care, no one can make sense of her mental state. Paula and Simon take a trip inside where Clara is being held, and there we see her acting hysterically. When the pair discovers that the child has drawn a box around herself in chalk and refuses to leave it, the air of mystery around her only thickens. As the medical staff tries to remove her from the chair, she cries and struggles against them. While Paula watches, she tries to calm Clara down. Surprisingly, she is successful, and they click right away. The couple eventually returns home, but they continue to fret over the plight of the kid. In particular, Paula sees Clara every time she shuts her eyes. When they take Clara to the doctor the next day, he tells them that she has a breakdown if her chalk line is crossed. The physician is still worried about the child's development and mental health. Therefore, she concludes that Clara should not spend her time between homes in a hospital. Since Paula is able to soothe and calm the girl down whenever she becomes hostile, it's clear that the two have developed a close relationship. Paula and her husband seem like the kind of people who could help hospital staff get to know Clara, get her to open up, and eventually learn her true identity, so that's what they do. It's immediately noticeable that, despite the couple's best efforts to make Clara feel at ease in her new environment, the girl prefers to keep to the confines of a square or circle drawn in chalk on the floor. Clara does not ever move out of the boundary that is drawn around her and is extremely scared to even try to do so. Paula demonstrates to Clara how to deal with this by rubbing the lines of chalk and drawing a new one. So that Clara may get acclimated to roaming around the house without being restricted, her parents have cleared the floor as much as possible and drawn lines or pathways throughout the house. Hospital psychologist Gloria pays a visit to the residence to coax Clara into speaking. She shoves the enigmatic young woman away from the chalk line. Clara's response is hysteria and hostility. In spite of everything, Clara's psychologist managed to record a few phrases. Because of this, we now know that the enigmatic female isn't mute but is simply refusing to communicate with us. As soon as Paula learns of this, she puts a chalk line around Clara to keep her in check. As a result of the impact of Paula's kindness, the recipient gives her a bear hug. Clara allows the pair to get closer to her and even develops feelings for Paula as time goes on. She crafts little holiday decorations out of paper for her foster mom. But then, one day, a pregnant neighbor of theirs drops by for a visit, and a curious thing happens. Paula offers the neighbor some toast and jam, but the woman eats so much that she begins to bleed profusely. Eventually, she coughs out a large piece of glass that had been in the meal. Emergency personnel hurry the neighbor to the hospital, and Simon subsequently discovers that other glass shards were stored alongside the jam in the jar. Simon, shocked, makes the deduction that their new house guest Clara is to blame, but Paula will not even consider the possibility. It is at this precise moment that psychologist Gloria drops by to share her latest results. After listening to Clara's recordings, she realizes that the young girl is actually communicating in German. Then, she claims that Clara hasn't been talking since her family and friends have been speaking exclusively Spanish around her. While authorities in Germany begin investigating reports of missing children, the doctors are able to connect with Clara through their German colleagues. She seems savvy in every respect, yet her reticence and introversion keep her on the sidelines. Something terrible must have occurred to her in the past, because she is clearly troubled by it. More time passes with Paula unsuccessfully trying to reach Clara. When Clara becomes angry and kicks her away, she gets harmed. Simon learns of this and becomes furious that the daughter is developing into such a malicious child. He now dislikes Clara and wants to return her to the hospital because of this. Paula, too, gets a piece of glass caught in her neck while out for a morning drink. Clara is aware of her difficulty yet chooses to do nothing to help. To clear her throat, Paula heads to the bathroom, and Clara vanishes without a trace. Paula is confident the girl has been kidnapped because Clara would never leave the confines of the playground as indicated by the chalk lines. Yet Simon and the neighbors think the bad girl has disappeared. Clara's jacket was retrieved by authorities in a swamp and the couple was informed of this later. Other than that, though, there have been no other clues. Paula fears for the safety of her daughter and begs the police to move quickly in their search for her. When Simon and his wife are alone in the house, he has a serious talk with her. In the event that Clara is recovered, he has no intention of keeping her. Paula, on the other hand, has an emotional connection to the kid and would like a different outcome. Shortly after, they argue, and in the process, they share some further background information. It turns out that the couple had been trying to start a family for 6 years, during which time they had tried several reproductive treatments without success. Paula has been covertly continuing the treatment even though they have chosen to stop for the time being and ease the pressure. She had been keeping the necessary treatment injections hidden in the bathroom the whole time. We also find out that Simon was aware of this all along but chose to keep quiet. Simon stomps out of the house in a huff after the ensuing fight. One day, Paula gets a call on her home phone and answers to hear Clara calling her mom. She's overjoyed, so she immediately reports this phone number to the authorities. But when the couple arrives at the station, the police tell them that Paula's mobile phone was really used to make the call to her house. The police and Simon conclude that Paula needs to consult a psychologist because of this evidence. Paula is coerced into undergoing a psychological evaluation, but she suspects there is more to the story and launches her own inquiry. The police officer then presents the couple with 2 case files that were being reviewed by authorities in their search for Clara. Paula, ever resourceful, stealthily packs the files in her bag before leaving. She sits at a neighboring restaurant and reads through the case files, which include accounts of attacks on children in Germany and the disappearance of German children. Paula does some research and comes across a case involving a teen girl whose body was discovered with signs of punishment. She examines the crime scene photos more closely and spots the same paper patterns that Clara used to make for her. Paula decides to visit with the doctor who performed the autopsy report on the slain teen girl because she thinks he may be able to provide her with some useful information. The girl had a defective set of kidneys and a lazy eye, which means that one of her eyes was less developed than the other. Paula, alarmed, re-examines the case files of reported missing children and finds a promising lead. One of the victims is a German girl named Ingrid who, likely owing to laziness, wears a patch over one eye. Nearly a decade has passed since she was abducted from a beach and never seen again. To continue her search, Paula comes across a German article and a video of Ingrid's parents discussing her after she had been gone for a year. In the video, Ingrid's parents talk about how she would make little angel figurines out of clay and present them as gifts to family and friends. Paula takes a second look at one of Clara's pictures when she gets back to her house and remembers what she learned. She takes a glance around and realizes that Eduardo, who lives in the house diagonal from theirs, is the subject of the drawing. Paula initially doesn't connect Eduardo to Clara's disappearance, but after giving it some thought, she comes to that conclusion. This prompts her to call the police before going to look for herself. The scene shifts into a flashback to the night Clara was discovered on the side of the road. While driving with Clara, Eduardo saw cops conducting a check near their home. In his terror, he let the girl go and told her to keep going right on the road, with the intention of following her later. But Paula and her husband came across the girl first, and they saved her. Eduardo was distraught when he heard the news later. At one point during a meal at Paula's, Eduardo excused himself to put some shards of glass inside a jam jar in an attempt to kill Clara because he was afraid she would reveal his heinous acts. Once he broke in and used Paula's phone to make an unauthorized call to her home number. After using it, he promptly gave it back so as not to raise suspicion. The goal was to portray Paula as completely insane. But when that failed, he broke into the house once more and took Clara. Paula returns to the present and makes up her mind to save the girl by herself. In any case, by the time she goes to Eduardo's place, the man has already figured out that she is aware of his criminal activities. He uses the hammer on her and knocks her out cold. He takes her downstairs and shackles Paula to a pole while Clara is confined to a chalked-in area. After this, the whole truth of what happened is revealed. Over 10 years ago, Eduardo abducted Ingrid, pregnant her with Clara, and then beat her to death. That German girl is indeed Clara's mother is established. The young girl grew up in captivity, with Eduardo periodically beating her to keep her within the chalked boundaries. Meanwhile, 2 police officers show up at Eduardo's door in response to Paula's earlier call, but the shrewd man sends them off with some fibs. He then confronts Paula again, this time with violence, demanding to know how she discovered his secret. The latter not only admits to having stolen case files before but also says she has them in her car. As soon as Eduardo hears this, he leaves, intent on erasing the files so that his true identity remains hidden. Soon after he leaves, Paula approaches Clara for assistance. She hands Clara some bits of chalk that she happened to be carrying and tells her to trace a route to the basement entrance. The young girl complies and, slowly at first, begins to go. Soon after his return, Eduardo realizes the girl is gone. Clara sneaks out of the basement and locks the door from the outside as he yells about, looking for her. She walks up to the front door, then hesitates since he can't sketch there. In that very instant, she spots Simon and yells for aid, but he is preoccupied with calling the police about his missing partner. So, Clara reluctantly walks off the chalk line and out of the house since she has exhausted all other possibilities. Maite, Eduardo's wife, has also shown up by this time. Initially, she is really nice and asks Clara if she is lost. But then she abruptly changes her mind and drags Clara inside the home by her hair. We find that Maite has always been at the mercy of her domineering husband, so she seizes this opportunity to assert her authority over Eduardo. Maite demands he grant her every want, on the condition that he keep the basement and its 2 hostages hidden from the outside world. The 2 sit down for breakfast after Eduardo agrees, but their peace is short-lived as the police force storms into the house and captures them. It turns out that Clara left chalky handprints on the front door when Maite dragged her inside the house, and the police didn't have to go very far into the situation before they figured out something was up at Eduardo's place. Both the couple and the 2 hostages are taken into custody. Clara, now residing in Germany with her grandparents, is shown speaking via video call with Paula in the final scene. Currently, her life resembles that of any other person. But Paula's big news is that she's expecting her first child.